All right. Well, first of all, let me welcome each and every one of you here today. We want to thank y'all for showing up and coming out. We first of all would like to thank Columbus and their hospitality and having us here today. It's a great city and it's a great venue. You know, we actually just may move our committee meetings here. It's better than our committee rooms. We may fall asleep, though, Representative Smyrie. This is a lot comfortable in our chairs. I'm going to start off and go around and let each member introduce themselves. But first, before I do that, I'm going to call on the Dean of the House. We're here in his district and have him, if he wants to recognize all of the delegation members that are here today because we appreciate them. What number are you? All right. You're right.
My first time sitting in one of these chairs. Feels good up here, Evelyn. Got a little head rest, you know. But, Mr. Chairman and Senator Gooch, thank y'all for Columbus. We appreciate it, and we don't take this task lightly, and we're looking forward to work with you and both as co-chairs, and today you're going to hear from a lot of Columbus citizens. On behalf of the Columbus delegation, I see Senator Ed Harbison, who's here from the 15th District. I know Josh McCoon was here earlier. Senator McCoon, both are members of our delegation and serve us in the state Senate, Senator Harbison, Senator McCoon. I see on the front row Representative Carolyn Hughley, the minority whip of the Georgia House. I see Representative David Buckner, Secretary of the Democratic Caucus. I don't know whether John Pizzold is here or not. John and Richard Smith both could not be here, but on behalf of our delegation, thank you for coming, and we appreciate the fact that you're meeting here in Columbus, your second meeting of your visits around the state, and of course we're looking forward to work with you as co-chair and with Senator Gooch in trying to come up with some sort of solution and some sort of remedy to the difficulties and the situation that we have in transportation throughout our state. So thank you, and welcome to Columbus.
Thank you, Representative Smyrie. We're happy to be here. I'm going to start to our left, and at this point, start with Representative Epps and let him explain who he is and a little bit about where he's from, and then we'll just kind of go from around there. All right, you're on.
No. Well, good afternoon, and I thank you, Chairman Smyrie. It has been a great hospitality the area has extended to us, and we appreciate it. But I'm Bubba Epps, House District 144, and that's in the middle area of our state, 7 counties in my district, and I serve on the House Transportation Committee, and it's indeed an honor to be here.
Thank you. My name is Representative Mark Hamilton from the 24th District up in Forsyth County, Lake Lanier, north of Atlanta. Transportation and transportation funding's been near and dear to my heart since before I became elected, and look forward to serving on this committee. Look forward to doing a lot of listening to our constituents and the citizens of Georgia and the experts in transportation to find the most effective way to address a very serious issue, and I'm very happy to be here. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Edward Lindsay. I'm a citizen member of this committee, a former state representative, represented North Atlanta and Sandy Springs for 10 years in the House, and I appreciate y'all's hospitality and look forward to hearing y'all's perspective on transportation.
Good afternoon. My name is Tyler Harper, and I represent the 7th Senate District in Southeast Georgia. Encompasses 10 counties, and from Ocilla, Georgia is my hometown. But glad to be here, Representative Smyrie, Mayor. We appreciate your hospitality. Looking forward to the meeting.
Good afternoon. My name is David Lucas. I represent the 26th Senatorial District, 7 counties, Houston, Bibb, Twiggs, Wilkerson, Jones, Hancock, and Washington. It's my pleasure to be here serving on this committee and hope that we can do something for rural transportation now.
Good afternoon. I'm Steve Gooch, State Senator. I'm Chairman of Transportation, and I'm also the co-chair of this committee. I live in Dahlonega, Georgia, which is home of the 5th Ranger Training Battalion. We are honored to have that group of fine men and women in our community, and we share with Fort Benning. So I know you all are proud of them as well, and we're proud to be here. Thank you.
And I'm Jay Roberts from Ocilla, Georgia. I represent 5 counties down around that area, and I am the co-chair with Chairman Gooch. And again, we're honored to be here today, and we appreciate the ability to be able to travel around the state that we've been afforded to listen to the citizens of this state to come up with what we hope to be a transportation plan, not only for the next 2 years, but for the next several decades to come. So with that,
thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Brandon Beach. I represent District 21 in the State Senate, which is Alpharetta, Milton, and Cherokee County. And I also serve on the Transportation Committee. And Dean, thank you for having us. Mayor, thank you for having us. This is a beautiful facility. Thank you for hosting us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Dave Williams. I work at the Metro Atlanta Chamber, and I am here today at the designation of my boss and our CEO, Hala Modelmog, who sends her regrets she was not able to be here today. And so, Mr. Chairman, she sends her regrets, but I particularly want to thank the Mayor Tomlinson and the City Council of the City of Columbus. Thank you for hosting us. So far, everything's been great. We look forward to a great meeting.
I'm State Representative Calvin Smyrie from the City of Columbus, Georgia, and I'm delighted to serve on this committee and look forward to having much dialogue on transportation issues that will be facing us during the 2015 legislative session. And thank you again, Mayor Thomas and City Manager Hughley and all of the city officials and Mayor Pro Tem Evelyn Pugh for the use of this facility, and we're looking forward to having a great meeting here in Columbus. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. John Burns, District 159, over in southeast Georgia, just east of Statesboro. It's a pleasure to be over here. It's a great crowd. Thank you all for coming out. We certainly appreciate this area. It's beautiful. Mayor, this is the first time I've been to Columbus, but I will visit again. It's a great city. It's good to be in the second largest city in Georgia. So we appreciate y'all, and thanks for being here. Look forward to hearing your comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Michael Sullivan. I'm President and CEO of the American Council of Engineering Companies of Georgia. I'm here today, though, as Chairman of the Georgia Transportation Alliance, the Georgia Chamber of Commerce's Transportation Advocacy and Public Policy arm, setting by designation in place of Chris Clark, President and CEO of the Georgia Chamber.
And I'm Steve Green from Savannah. I'm the Lieutenant Governor, citizen appointee. Was Chairman of the Georgia Port Authority 3 times, and last year Chair of the Georgia State Chamber. I'd like to thank everybody for coming out. Mayor, I'd like to thank you and Columbus for wonderful hospitality. Shown us a great time so far, and it's great to be here.
all right. With that being said, we will get this meeting started so that we can move forward. Again, we thank each and every one of you for coming here today. This is an important issue that we all feel strongly about, and we realize that we have to get Georgia moving in the right direction for years to come, and that's why we have set up 8 meetings around the state of Georgia, and they are strategically located so that basically anybody within 2 hours should be able to drive to a meeting. And we're here to listen. We want to hear what you have to say. As we've said before, nothing's off the table. We're willing to listen to any ideas that you might have. So with that being said, we're going to start off today with Mayor Tomlinson. If you would, please come forward. Again, thank you for hosting us today.
Thank you. Well, welcome. Again, it's such a pleasure to have you all here, Chairman Roberts, Chairman Gooch, and the members of the Joint Commission. It's our great honor to host you here on this important topic. We are a city, as you said, the second largest city in the state of Georgia, 202,000 citizens, and we've grown 6.3% since the last census. So we're doubling the state growth rate, making great strides. And we're going to have a short presentation here for you today on my part. Then we're going to turn it over to our city manager, who's going to speak to you about where we are on T-SPLOST. As you know, we were one of the 3 regions that passed the T-SPLOST in 2012. And so we want to give you an update and show you that $300 million impact over 10 years and what it will mean for this community. And also then going to have Bill Murphy with the Chamber of Commerce, who's going to speak to you about the importance of transportation as it relates to economic development in this entire Valley region. And then we'll finish up with Sam Welburn, who, as you all know, is a member of the DOT board. I also want to recognize some folks here who are here today. We have a lot of citizens and leaders of this community. You've met our delegation, of course, and recognize them, but I do want to ask our Mayor Pro Tem, Evelyn Pugh, to stand or wave her hand. She's been serving us for many years. We don't know what we would do without her. We also have Councilor Mike Baker, who is here with us today, and Councilor Bruce Huff, and of course our city manager, Mr. Isaiah Hughley, and we just make up one heck of a team here in Columbus when you put our 10 city councilors, our city manager, and the great civic leaders we have in this community with one of the most outstanding delegations in the state. Nobody does it like Columbus, Georgia, and that's what we hope you get a little bit of a feel for today. Some of our corporate and private partners, of course, include AFLAC. We're the international headquarters of AFLAC, TSYS, or some people call Total Systems, Synovus, Carmike, and many others have their international headquarters here. Of course, we have Fort Benning, now known as the Maneuver Center of Excellence. So we have the Armor School here, as well as the infantry, and I want to also recognize the garrison commander, Colonel Gus Herter, who's here today, representing Fort Benning, and the Deputy Garrison Commander, George Stuber. And George sits with us on many of the transportation boards as a representative of Fort Benning, because we are a tri-city. Phoenix City, you all had the opportunity to meet Mayor Eddie Lowe, of course Columbus, and Fort Benning. And we really are an interwoven community, and we have found the synergy in pulling together and rowing in the same direction. And I think as it relates to you all and your mission here today, when you have a community that can row in the same direction, it creates incredible possibilities for partnerships. So we're not just relying on the state government, we're not just relying on the federal government, but we're pulling our own weight as a municipality and certainly as a private sector partners that we can bring to the table. And I hope that's a model that can be taken under consideration today. We also are a community that passed 2-penny sales taxes in one of the greatest recessions since the Great Depression. And that's phenomenal in and of itself. One was the OLOST, 30% of which was committed politically to go to infrastructure. 70% went to public safety. But the 30% that was committed for infrastructure, of course, helps us with everything from stormwater sewers, but repaving, bridge work, and some other things that come down the pike, make a lot of things possible for us. And then, of course, the T-SPLOST, as I said, a $300 million investment by the citizens just in this county alone over 10 years. So we also, of course, are a community you all had the opportunity to see before coming today, our great river. And in the evolution of this community, we have turned our face back towards our river. We are the northernmost navigable point of the Chattahoochee River. For a while there, we turned our back on the river and we pursued some other endeavors that were part of that economic time. But now the era has come to turn back to the river. It's created an incredible stimulus to our quality of life. We've reversed the brain drain as young people are choosing to stay here and come here from other places to be a part of this phenomenal quality of life that Columbus, Georgia offers. But that river didn't happen by accident. That was a 10-year slog. It took a partnership of the federal, state, local government, and also the private sector. $25 million had to be pulled together to make that happen, and it came from a lot of different segments of our community. I want to just show you one little video here. It's 90 seconds, but just to give you a sense of the vibrancy. That's not part of the vibrancy. This is going to be part of the vibrancy of Columbus, Georgia. hope you didn't miss the tag there at the end that USA Today named Columbus, Georgia, one of the 12 greatest man-made adventures on the planet. That was with a ski slope in Dubai, and we were right up there with some of the big ones. But that's what's going on in Columbus, Georgia. And as it said in the first slide, in Columbus, Georgia, we do big things. We really do believe that anything is possible if we're rowing in the same direction. And I want to commend, we talked about, you recognize the dean of our delegation, of course, Calvin Smyrie. One of the things, we're just so very fortunate to have him, but he encourages us to continue to push the envelope. And you all may have been reading recently about some of the things that we have on the burner, on the front burner here, about passenger rail, high-speed passenger rail to Atlanta. And since it's been in the media, I didn't want to be here before you without at least mentioning what that's all about. But the truth is that cities across America are looking at high-speed passenger rail. And so I truly believe, as the head of a municipality, we would be foolish not to look at it too. We'd run the risk that we may be left behind. Earlier in the winter of 2014, I attended a P3 conference, a public-private partnership conference in Dallas, Texas. And 17 cities presented their biggest projects. And of those projects, all but one city presented an inner-city rail project. And so that tells you what cities across the country are thinking about. And so we have to ask ourselves, if Texas comes up with an inner-city rail system, if Florida comes up with an inner-city rail system, where are we? And so I just wanted to touch on a few of the high notes to show you that perhaps this is less folly. I said I wasn't going to mention this, but now that I'm up here, I am. This was not any grand vision. The truth is, this was proposed by some other cities as being something that the state should have as a priority. Athens and Macon and Savannah have all been talking about inner-city rail between their cities and Atlanta. But the truth is, when we started looking at Columbus, it's the most viable line. And here's why. This isn't Amtrak, it's not MARTA. This is a market-priced ticket. It is not to be subsidized, and that's how the study was done, is how much would this cost and would it be viable from a market perspective. It's critical that it be a significant public-private partnership, and I'll tell you this, one of the biggest catalysts of this study has been that the private market has been as interested in it as anybody. They want this to happen. They want us to be able to connect the economic resources of Atlanta and Columbus, our two biggest cities. So it matters as much to the private sector, and they're willing to invest and invest significantly. I will say in the study, the feasibility study that we have done, that was a grant, and all of the match money was provided by the private sector, by the corporate sector, who stands to profit from the fact that we would be connecting 70% of the GDP of this state by an inner-city rail between Columbus and Atlanta. It would be 90 miles of electric rail, a dedicated line. So two of our biggest proponents of this are CSX and Norfolk Southern, because we will not be sharing their freight lines. So they love this idea, and they actually were on the commission and attended almost every meeting. It would be 61 minutes airport to airport, and that's so significant because you're talking about Columbus, Georgia, then being the 6th runway to Hartsfield. We're outside their airspace. As you all know, they've been looking for a 6th runway outside their airspace. If we can hook it up with a high-speed rail, 61 minutes, we take our airport, which has the capacity for 5 carriers and currently has 1, we take it to being an optimized airport and relieving a little bit of what's going on of the potential growth at Hartsfield. It would have 1 stop in Noonan. It would be about 11 minutes from Noonan to Atlanta. Imagine, 11 minutes from Noonan to Atlanta. The electric train, the electric rail, has top speeds of 220 miles an hour. It has a cost of $3.9 billion. That's with a 30% contingency, but actually is right in line with a per mile cost of some of the major transportation projects that you all deal with and that our DOT deals with every day. It would run along 185 and 85 up existing right-of-way. That's one of the things that makes Columbus the most viable rail project right now in the state, and frankly among the most viable in the country, because we already own the right-of-way. There's ample right-of-way to have this along those two interstate connectors. The study shows it would be profitable in its first year with a 1.2 profitability ratio, and under the Federal Rail Administration criteria, which this study was done to their criteria, that's 11,000 jobs per billion. As I said, it would connect 70% of the state's GDP. We're talking about 1.1 million trips a year. That's, you go one way, that's one trip. You come back, that's two. And it's $41 each way, which is interesting. We have a shuttle service now, and as you know, Greta has a service from Noonan to Atlanta. And all of that was weighed, but it's right now costs $38 one way from Columbus to Atlanta on a van. I think it's a 12 or 15 passenger van. So to have $41 each way on an electric rail is a market price. The other thing you should know, and a lot of people don't know, oh, I'm sorry, yes.
Mayor, what, you got 41 each way, and that's from here to Atlanta. What would Noonan to Atlanta cost? Did y'all have that in there?
I don't know that I have that, but I bet I have somebody here who does, who can slip it to me in just a minute. Kirsten, do you remember?
There's a set price according to $5, and then there's a per mileage basis. I don't remember off the top of my head what the number was, but we can calculate it.
We can certainly get it to you, maybe calculate it before I sit down, but I will tell you this. The full study with the appendices is online at columbusga.org/planning, and we can get that to you so that you can see, and there's a little executive summary for those who don't want to flip through the whole thing, and then you can move right to the appendices that you would like to see. But one thing few people know is that Georgia has the most expansive and progressive passenger rail authority in the United States. You have a passenger rail authority that was codified in 1985. It has the most expansive powers under the Georgia Constitution. It now sits defunct. The only members were appointed by Zell Miller. Those who are still with us, their terms have long since expired, but with the stroke of a pen, there could be members of a rail passenger authority who could enter into financing arrangements, partnerships with the private sector, anything that you can imagine. And so again, it's just one of the many resources we have. I just want to end by saying, you know, the South is one of the regions of the United States expected to experience the most incredible growth over the next few years. And that's one of the things you all are weighing and considering as you figure, do we have the resources we need to sustain that growth? And I suggest that we need not only look at the resources to maintain what we have and to expand what we have, but do we have the resources to take advantage of the innovations and the partnerships that may come down the pike for the future? Will we be ready to play ball if somebody says, I've got an idea and I'm willing to put up significant funds to make this happen? Will we be ready for that? And so again, I want to thank you for being here today. I want to thank you for your commitment to this important subject. I was so impressed at your first meeting to see you grappling with these problems in a very candid way, and it really restores one's faith in the process and the ability of government to do good things. So thank you for taking this on, and I want to turn it over to our city manager, Mr. Isaiah Hughley.
Mayor, hold on one second.
Oh, it would be $15 from Noonan to Atlanta.
All right, hold on one second. Representative, well, Mr. Lindsay has a question.
Just, I'm from Atlanta, so I'm just sort of curious, where would the line end in Atlanta? It's not going to end at the airport, is it?
The airport, yes, sir.
So it doesn't go all the way into the city?
It would end at the airport, airport to airport.
Okay.
And then it would, basically it would make your airports multimodal systems or multimodal terminals. And so here in Columbus, our public transportation would pick up. There would be other things, of course, that would have to come into play to support that kind of receipt of those travelers, but the same would be true for Atlanta. So you would have MARTA, of course, your cab system. And
okay, so you're connecting to the MARTA system at the airport.
You could connect to the MARTA system at the airport, correct?
Thank you.
Yes. Anything else?
That's all right now, Mayor. Again,
Sure.
thank you so much.
Hey, thank you all. And now I introduce our city manager, Mr. Isaiah Hughley, talk about T-Splost.
Good afternoon to the honorable co-chairs and to the honorable members of this joint commission and to all of those present here today. Welcome to our city, Columbus, Georgia. Columbus voted yes for T-Splost. For our city, this means local transportation needs that were long range will be met now. What we are able to do right now with T-Splost to further improve our transportation system would have taken decades to complete without T-Splost. Over the next 10 years, the landscape of Columbus will change as a result of T-Splost. 8 new transportation projects are being designed and built while investing over $250 million in infrastructure and capital projects. $30 million will be collected for discretionary use. The results will be relief from congestion, improved safety conditions at major intersections, and the opportunity for further economic growth. 8 projects approved will not only provide transportation improvements, but will provide economic benefits. Construction jobs will be created. There's the potential to unlock areas of our community to new planned growth while promoting job opportunities. A case in point is the construction of a new interchange at State Route 520 and Interstate 185, immediately adjacent to Fort Benning. While the property is within our city limits, it's inaccessible for basic city services such as police, fire, and sanitation. Developing this project allows us to provide that access while developing the site as a business park for military contractors and others. Another example is the potential construction of a new interchange on I-185 at Casita Road. This section of the community is completely isolated from major transportation routes. By providing new access to this area, underutilized industrial land will be given the chance for renewed opportunities for growth and job development. Our T-Splost addresses the problems of congestion and the need for safety. For too many years, the eastern section of our community along Buena Vista Road finds itself cut off from the rest of the city multiple times daily. Trains cross this roadway. This makes it difficult when citizens are trying to get to and from work, when deliveries to businesses are delayed, and most importantly, when there is a life or death situation and the need for emergency services. The T-Splost Spiderweb project, and I'm going to show it to you in just a minute, will address the issues and correct this inconvenience now instead of later, maybe even decades later. Here's a story that's in our local newspaper today, the Columbus Ledger. And you can see that there's already talk underway. And for those who, as I said earlier, Columbus voters voted for this, so it's already done, and we are moving forward. We are working it. And so this story is in the Ledger today, and I just wanted to share with you that even the local media know that we are moving forward with those things that our voters said yes to. The same can be said for congestion at Buena Vista Road and I-185. This interchange is a continual point of congestion. causing unnecessary delays and frustration to our citizens. T-Splost will allow us to address this issue now in a way that promotes a better flow of traffic through this area, while promoting a safer way for both cars and pedestrians to travel this roadway. Recreation and tourism will be enhanced. The T-Splost Columbus Riverwalk project will allow us to connect the final piece of our Riverwalk that is not connected. This will not only offer new recreational opportunities, but will promote new tourism opportunities that will complement our whitewater efforts that you saw in the video. The completion of the Riverwalk will also open up areas for redevelopment potential. Already, because of this particular effort, master plans are underway to revitalize an area known as City Village, which lies just north of uptown Columbus along the river. Recreational opportunities will also be developed in South Columbus with the construction of a new 2.5-mile Rails to Trails T-Splost project that promotes walking, jogging, and biking in this area. Because of T-Splost, for the first time in 30 years, we will reassess our public transit system and its future needs. It is our desire to develop a transit system that serves all the needs of our citizens. The bottom line with T-Splost in Columbus is that transportation projects that were long range will be met now. It may have taken us decades to do these projects, if not for T-Splost. Various areas of our community will be revitalized. There will be economic benefits. Construction jobs will be created. Columbus will be a better city sooner rather than later because the Columbus voters said yes to T-Splost. I want to just share with you quickly and give you kind of just an update on where we are with some of these projects. These are the 8 projects that were approved here in our region. And I want you to know that all projects are on schedule. 2 of the projects have the potential for engineering being accelerated before their target year. And those projects, for those here, those listening, would be Buena Vista Road Interchange and the Buena Vista Road Spiderweb. This band, we have 3 bands. In Band 1, there are 4 projects, 2013 through 2015. The Columbus Riverwalk, and I mentioned this project is designed to complete our existing 16 miles Riverwalk. Due to severe elevation issues, a series of 3 bridges will be necessary to make this connection and make that 16-mile Riverwalk complete. 3 bridges will make this happen, pedestrian bridges. And you can see from this rendering that the height of the bridges will provide scenic views of the area. And again, this is a $10 million project, and we've already got architects on board, and this project is moving forward. This is another view, and I want to show you this because it provides a scenic view through this area. This is the ground level view of the proposed connection. This is the view from inside the proposed bridge at Bibb Mill. This section of the Riverwalk is designed to run through an old section of Bibb Mill with scenic views of the river and the surrounding area. This is another view of how the Riverwalk will be incorporated into the former mill site. And that's the $10 million Columbus Riverwalk project that we're moving forward. Then we've got the Intercity Express bus park and ride service. This project is a $22.4 million project. This project is unique in that it is not a brick and mortar project. It will fund new buses. It will provide hardscapes, signs, and bus stops and trash receptacles. It provides operational costs, including personnel. The project allows for a comprehensive review of our existing transit system to make sure, we've not done this in more than 30 years, to make sure that the transit system is what it really needs to be. Then we've got the South Columbus multi-use facility. This project is a $3.5 million project. It converts an old abandoned rail line that once served at Fort Benning into a 2.2-mile walking, jogging, biking trail. Amenities includes restrooms and play areas and benches and swings and things of that nature. A pedestrian bridge will be required over Victor Drive, and we're going to use a high priority project funding to construct this pedestrian bridge. Then we've got the US 27 Custer Road Interchange project. It's a $20 million project. This is an economic development project. The site is proposed to be developed as a business park and for military contractors. It could support new retail and restaurant operations. An MOU with Fort Benning for the development of this project has been completed. And so we're moving forward with these 4 projects in Band 1. In Band 2, we've got projects that we are actively moving forward with. And this project is the Buena Vista Road Interchange. It's $47.6 million. It's one of the more congested interchanges in the city. And this project is going to help us fix this problem for the citizens in this area of town. And if it were not for T-Splosh, this project would be 7 to 10 years down the road for us to even be talking about it. And so this is an important project to our community. And then we've got the intersection improvement along Buena Vista Road, the spider web that I showed you the Ledger Inquirer story earlier. I talked about the challenges we have with public safety and all of the other issues with this project, but this is a very important project to us as well. This is a $40 million project. Then we've got State Route 219 passing lanes. This project is a $17.6 million project, and it's a project that largely impacts Harris County. And then moving on to Band 3, we've got one project in Band 3, and that would be the Casita Road, Old Casita Road project. It's a very expensive project. It's $58.2 million, but this project could include a new interchange that would provide access and development opportunities for a section of the community that has no direct access to the interstate. And it would open up wonders for us in Columbus. I want to mention very quickly discretionary funds. I mentioned $30 million in discretionary funds. These are our collections for 2013 in discretionary funds, and these are our collections 1.2 year-to-date for 2014. But these discretionary funds are helping us with critical infrastructure, maintenance and safety improvements, future operations and grants matching and alternative transportation and ADA compliance. And so this project, the discretionary monies are making things happen for us here in Columbus as well. And so bottom line again, transportation projects, the T-Splosh is really for Columbus means that transportation projects that were long range will be met now that may have taken decades, and many areas of the community will be revitalized as a result. Construction jobs will be created. There'll be there's economic benefit, and Columbus definitely, because of T-Splosh, will be a better city sooner rather than later because the voters here in Columbus, Georgia said yes to T-SPLOST. And so that's what I wanted to share with you today by way of update and let you know how important T-SPLOST has been has been for Columbus and where it's going to take us sooner rather than later. And I'll be happy to answer any questions for you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Hughley. Again, let me just say how much we appreciate the leadership that y'all have shown here, especially with the T-SPLOST. T-SPLOST, y'all one of the success stories and all, and you're doing it right, and we applaud you for everything that you do with that. We thank you for your leadership there. It's truly showing. Many questions by anybody on the committee? All right. Thank you, Mr. Hughley. Next,
I just want to introduce Mr. Bill Murphy with the Chamber of Commerce. He's Vice President of Economic Development.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Members of the Commission, I appreciate the opportunity to give you a brief update on our economic development activities. Joined here by my colleagues, our President and CEO, Mike Gaiman, our COO, Rob Nickel. I thought I saw our Executive Vice President of Leadership Development and Community Development, Amy Bryan, as well as several of our committee members and chairs of various committees. I'm probably the newest person that's going to speak to you today about Columbus. I've been here about 8 months. I moved down here from Dayton, Ohio. And I will tell you, one of the things that struck me from the very beginning was what I hope you've heard over and over today, and that is the public-private partnerships that make projects and the community here in Columbus successful. And I think you could argue that most any community, in order to be successful, really needs that public-private partnership. But I think here in Columbus, it's the degree of which we've seen the level, the amount of activity that has been generated through those public-private partnerships truly is something that Columbus is very proud of and should be very proud of. As you can imagine, then, our economic development efforts are no different. We rely on a number of partners, both local, state, and to some extent federal, for our economic development activities. 20 years ago, this region came together recognizing that economic development really does affect more than just the city of Columbus, more than just the city of Phoenix City, but it truly requires a region to be successful in economic development. And through that, the Valley Partnership was established as really a model for regional economic development. And I think one could argue that that early collaboration and cooperation really built a foundation from which this region could be successful with its T-SPLOST vote. So when we talk regionally, these are the kinds of industries that we target. We work very closely with the state of Georgia and their economic development. I've got to tell you, the department held a meeting down here earlier this year. Chris Carr, the Deputy Director Tom Croteau, just an amazing group of people to work with. Having worked in other communities in other states, I will tell you that the delegation and the department here in Georgia is as strong as you will find anywhere in this country. I mentioned one here I just want to point out as Fort Benning, and you've again heard a lot about Fort Benning as an economic development tool, and it truly is a contributor to what makes Columbus Columbus. You heard the mayor talk about the Tri-Cities. It truly does serve as a foundation for our economic development efforts. And as you can imagine, and I hope this comes as no surprise to you all, that Georgia defense industry is really big business. If you look at the economic impact, it's the fourth greatest here in Georgia, followed just behind Texas, Florida, and Virginia. Perhaps as importantly then, 10% of the population here in Georgia is in some way receiving some compensation from the military, whether that's folks who are on active or retired duty or those DOD civilians that call Georgia home. As importantly for our economic development efforts, 9 of the 10 largest defense contractors are located here in the state, and all 9 of those are here outside the gates of Fort Benning. You've heard a lot about Fort Benning. Most of this information is probably not new to you, but I think it's important for us when we talk about economic development to just remind ourselves how important it is. It truly is an entity in and of itself. 37,000 roughly active duty civilians and contractors there every day, another 10,000 being trained there day in and day out. It's not just a military installation. It is a training facility that touches really just about every member of our armed forces, certainly the Army. It has a significant impact, as you can imagine, for an organization and an entity that large. Just looking at things like the salaries and sales tax generated by those people buying products in our community is absolutely astonishing. $5.5 billion. I think you would argue that if you looked at any industry having that kind of impact on a community, let alone a state, $5.5 billion is a significant impact. So let me just briefly run through a history of some of the projects here over the past 11 years. You can see, again, largely because of that great cooperation we have with the city council and the mayor have been strong advocates for our economic development efforts. We have a $250,000 of property tax dollars that are directed to our development authority that has enabled us to be very competitive for economic development projects. Those 131 projects over the last 11 years have generated over $1 billion in new investment. This year as well, we've been pleased with the amount of activity that we've seen. We certainly hope we have some more to talk about in the last half of this year, but some very significant projects that are promising both a lot of capital investment and a lot of new job creation here in our community. And again, I'm going to touch on a couple of things that you've heard now from a couple of speakers, from both the mayor and the city manager, but it's important that you understand that this is important to economic development, and it's important because it really demonstrates, I hope to you all, it certainly does to me, that we're really all looking at the same playbook. We're all talking about the same projects and initiatives that are important to our community. You heard about T-Splost. You heard about the economic impact that it's having specifically as it relates to the new interchange and the potential development of the Benning Technology Park just outside the gates of Fort Benning. But it truly is critical to our overall economic and community development efforts. I thought I had one more slide in there, but I will tell you the last initiative that we're working on, working very closely with City Council on, is the redevelopment districts, and we'll be talking a little bit more about those. As you know, those are used widely throughout Georgia to promote economic development, and while the vote failed by about 250 votes back in 2007, we remain hopeful that when it's on the ballot this November, that we'll have yet another tool for us to be using in our successful economic development efforts. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions. If not, I appreciate the time to give you a quick update on our economic development activities here in Columbus and the region.
Yeah, let me ask you a question. How, if you can, how much of an increase have you seen since the T-Splosh was passed in this region, as far as maybe companies or industries and all looking at coming in to invest, or as far as y'all being more aggressive? I mean, can you touch on that a little bit?
Well, I certainly, having only been here a year, I can tell you that some of the T-Splosh initiatives are important not only to our economic development efforts, but what I call our quality of place, which is increasingly becoming a determiner for where companies choose to locate. And certainly the projects that are laid out over the next 20 years here are, I think, important not only to economic development, but to community development, and ultimately creating that place where people want to live, work, and play.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, hold on. We have Representative Epps.
Thank you, Chairman.
Oh, the state. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay,
great.
Thank you.
And it is awfully early. We just, as you know, began collecting T-Splosh, but I will say that the Fort Benning Technology Park is directly a connection between the transportation infrastructure and what promises to be hundreds of jobs. So it's a major technological defense contractor-oriented park that will take place because of the infrastructure being allowed by the T-Splosh. So
in
that's
other
one direct
words,
connection.
If you had it to do over again, you'd support it again.
Right, well, the community would support it again, absolutely.
Yeah.
They would. Probably even to a greater degree, truth be told. Because, look, we were a community just like all of that. You know, I think it's important to respect the conversations that happened in all the other communities and the debates, absolutely. We're a donor community. There was a lot of consternation about that. $80 million over the total 10 years will go to others. But in the end, we got this money now. look what we're doing with it. And the community around us, our Valley Partnership is being invested in. Their growth benefits us as well. So, you know, there were tough decisions here, but we passed it, and we see the benefit of it because we did.
Thank you.
And with that, I want to turn it over for closing remarks, someone who's no stranger to you all, I think the longest-serving Department of Transportation member and Columbus resident, Mr. Sam Welborn.
Well, thank you, Teresa. Y'all have probably already heard from me enough, but I'm delighted to speak to you again. I feel like I know all 13 of you to some degree, and I want to join the mayor and everybody else in welcoming you to Georgia's second largest city. That rings pretty good to me. And tell you that, yes, I am known as the dean of the DOT board, like Calvin is known as the dean of the Georgia General Assembly, I guess, the entire General Assembly. And Calvin, what that means to me is we're probably getting pretty old. But I welcome each of you. It's real interesting that three senators serving on this panel today are former DOT board members. And it's great to see John Burns, Brandon Beach, and Steve Gooch.
We're not going to hold that against them.
Okay, thank you.
No, he brought it
I'm
down.
sorry. Anyway, I served with them, and they know me, and I know them. Thank you for coming, and thank you for being here, and I know you're going to get some great ideas about what to do about our dilemma. Before I tell you, which I'm going to tell you, what I think you ought to do, I want to tell you that Keith Golden is here, our commissioner. I don't know if he's going to be formally recognized or not, but I'm going to formally recognize him right now and tell you that he's a fantastic commissioner for the DOT. He is the 9th commissioner that I've served with. I'm in my 5th 5-year term, 23 years, and Keith Golden is just a fabulous commissioner. I also want to introduce Thomas Howell to you. Thomas Howell, if you'd raise your hand, Thomas. Thomas Howell is one of 7 district engineers in our state. We have 7 districts, 14, not to be confused with 14 congressional districts and 14 board members, but we have 7 DOT districts. Of course, they have many more counties than the congressional districts typically. But y'all know, and I know, that Thomas's work is where the rubber meets the road. I mean, he is the guy in my district over here, even though his office is in Thomaston. He's my go-to guy when I have to get something done for transportation anywhere in my district. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate Thomas Howell and what he means to our state. I told you that I've served with 9 commissioners. Well, one of those 9, an additional one of those 9, is here with us today, and I know you all know him. Commissioner and former State Representative Vance Smith is back here, and I wanted Vance to raise his hand. Vance, it was a great pleasure to serve with Vance when he was there, and I have great respect and admiration for him. You all know the statistics about the T-Splost. I've already told you. You already knew it before I told you. But Columbus gets about $200,000 a month in what I call free money. It's money that we never had before. I refer to it as manna from heaven. And we will be able in the next 10 years to use that some $30 million in cash, as Isaiah said a minute ago, to take care of our day-to-day transportation needs. That is money we would never have gotten. That is money we would not have had. In addition to that, and more significantly, we're going to have $300 million over the next 10 years for these 8 projects that they have already talked about. These projects were described by Isaiah maybe as long-term when we started talking about T-Splost. Well, now they're not long-term, they're short-term. And every one of them are going to happen and every one of them are going to be completed. And the point of that is none of them would have been without T-Splosh, at least in our lifetime. Every one of them are very, very long-term projects. I want to tell you, I'm a Republican, and I'm a conservative politician, if you want to call it that. And I know what I'm about to tell you is tough, but fortunately, I don't have to face re-election. And every time I have mentioned this to people similar to you in your position, I'm always given the excuse, well, man, I got to get reelected. But I'm going to tell you my number one thought to impart to you, and you can take it for what it's worth, is we need to raise the gas tax. The DOT, we have the finest highway system in America, in my opinion. The problem is we don't have enough money to maintain it. We got the finest highway system in America, and yet consistently our board, year after year, is telling Keith Golden and his staff we need to spend more and more money on maintenance. And so that is happening. Less and less money is being spent on the things that you want in your districts, that your people want, and that your people come after you to get. We don't have enough money. And it sounds funny, we have a $2 billion budget, and really only about $800 million of that is spent on DOT projects, because it costs money to run a 5,500 employee department. And so divide that $800 million by 14 congressional districts where we have to balance the money, and relatively speaking, it's just not enough money. So your task, and I understand that, and you understand it much better than me, is to figure out how we're going to get some more money to take care of the transportation needs of our state and make our highway system even better than it is now. All you have to do to know that what I am saying is true about where we are today is cross over any of our, I think, 6 contiguous state lines to know we have a great highway system. In short, what I think we need to do is raise the gas tax. And I'm not going to talk any more about that except to say I think the Georgia gas tax is the lowest in the nation. And so I think you could easily make a case that that is part of your solution.
Mr. Welber, let me
Yes.
ask you a question real quick while you're on that. Where do you see that needs to go to?
You know, Jay, I don't know. Yeah, we've been reading about this penny, that we take the penny from the money going to the general fund. I mean, that 180 million, I'm not trying to.
That's not enough.
It's not enough.
We get that.
We got to be thinking in terms of $500 million or more that's needed at DOT. And so that may be part of the solution, diverting that penny from the general fund to the DOT. But we need several more pennies added to the gas tax. And I know, y'all, I know you don't think I understand the predicament it puts you in. I do. But I really think it needs to be addressed from a courage standpoint. We must be bold. We must figure out how to get more money to the DOT. Secondly, and I have a 2-part solution.
Hold on. Do y'all need to ask a question now? Yeah, okay. Hold on. If you don't mind, Mr. Welborn, Chairman Hamilton and Mr. Lindsay have a question.
Okay.
Chairman Hamilton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I appreciate everything you do on the DOT, and I know y'all have got a very tough job, and I have 2 DOT board members that I deal with in my district, and they do a fabulous job. Let me say first and foremost, and they can put this back in my district, I agree with you. Personally, I think DOT needs about $1 billion more a year.
We do.
I think $1 billion gives them what they need. I said last meeting, and we'll say again this meeting, the average Georgian pays about $85 a year in transportation motor fuel tax. That's what they pay. They think they pay thousands. My cable bill is $152 a month. The average Georgian pays $85 for transportation infrastructure. So I will tell you right now, we need more money. However, there's a lot of different ways you can get at that number. I also am one that likes to look at the extra penny or the additional penny. I also like to look at the fact that we pay sales tax on motor fuel that doesn't come back to DOT, and I know much of that goes into transportation funding at the local level, so I'm not trying to get the locals scared, but I think we need to look at that. But the simple fact is you can't raise, in my opinion, you can't raise the motor fuel tax enough or in a way that is equitable, because when you have electric cars, I use the story, my car that I bought 2 years ago gets twice as much mileage as the previous, so my motor fuel tax went down. So here's my question. I asked Mr. LaHood last time, didn't get an answer out of him. Help us. What are some other ways that other states are either doing or that's out there as you tour the country and meet with other states that are addressing this? What are some just additional ideas or concepts? Because I don't think that there's a silver bullet. When I sat on this committee 7 years ago, we talked about P3. Well, we've tried to do P3. P3 is not the silver bullet that's going to save all this. There's a lot of different things. So long-winded story to Mr. Welborn. I'd like to hear your idea. What are some 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 ideas that this committee needs to study, evaluate, gain information on so that we can move forward? I'll take this opportunity. I appreciate what Columbus has done with T-Splice. My county, Wednesday, we have a meeting with DOT, and it's already been approved. It's going to be on the November ballot. Our county is doing a $200 million bond referendum in November, of which 87, correct me if I'm wrong, Commissioner, $87 million of those local bond dollars, if approved, are going to what? State projects. Because the state simply cannot fund the projects. And so our local commissioners have stepped up and said, we're willing to pay local tax dollars for state projects because that's how much we need this. So I'm just looking for additional ideas and thoughts on how we can do this.
Thank you, Mark. Let me go back, and I'm going to back up just a little bit. The reason I told you I'm a Republican and I'm a conservative, I didn't finish that, is I hate taxes. I hate income taxes, and I hate all the discussion of raising income taxes. I mean, I just don't like it. So it's a little bit weird coming from me that I'm saying we need to raise the gas tax. I think that was what I was trying to get at. But I think it's essential, and I think we have to explain it in a way that what we get for that 2, 3, 4, 5 pennies that we need to add to the gas tax far outweighs anything negative about the tax itself. Now, getting to your question, I told you to begin with, I had 2 ideas. My second idea, and it's not an idea, it's just what I think needs to take place, using the success of Augusta and Columbus with the T-Splost and the other 55 counties that passed it. Listen, I hear of little bitty counties all over this state within the 55 not even knowing what to do with the money they're getting. They're so happy with it. They don't even know what to do with it. They don't know what to spend it on. And so using the success that we have experienced, somebody somehow come up with a second T-Splost, maybe in some way eliminating the bad parts that caused it not to pass in the 9 other districts. I don't know what those are. But I think it's a 2-part thing, Mark. I think, 1, raise the gas tax, and you could couple that with diverting that penny, and then number 2, come up with a new T-Splost. You know, I'm not being critical. I'm not trying to but we got to sell it better. And we got to use the success of Augusta and Columbus and the other counties that passed it to get the second one passed. Now, Wayne Shackelford, the first commissioner I served under, used to have an expression about the gas tax. Don't pick cotton, pick Yankees. Because let's not forget that a third of our gas tax, don't forget this, is paid for by people who don't live in Georgia. People passing through on the interstate, going to Florida, or going up north. Our interstate system is so big in Georgia that they got to stop for gas. And so a big percentage is paid for by people that don't live in Georgia. So I kind of like those odds in terms of only 2/3 of it is paid by Georgians. That's correct. And that's part of the problem. Number one, people are using those kinds of vehicles more and more. Number two, the vehicles that do use gas are getting better mileage. You know, all the reasons the gas tax is going down, we're having to spend more money on maintenance, so less money on projects that we must build in order to maintain our system. You know, other ideas, I don't have them. But I think generally speaking, the big picture things that I want to convey to you to really think about is raising the gas tax and then coming up with a new, easy to sell, non-controversial, if you will, new T-Splosh.
But a T-Splosh law is still there. I mean, it ain't changed, and it's not going to be changed. So it's always going to be a tool that's still sitting there. So we can always bring that back.
And of course, their bond, somebody mentioned bonds. You can do that on individual county, you know, city.
Hold on, let me you mull over that a little bit, and let a few ask you some questions. I agree with you. We got to find revenue.
I don't like taxes.
I don't know that anybody likes taxes, but I think that we've got to get to the point, and I think that Chairman Hamilton's right. We're looking at somewhere between $750 and $1 billion as our target number. But Mr. Lindsay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm still in the study mode and asking questions mode, and perhaps this, if you could sort of take this back to Commissioner Golden, I'd appreciate it for some additional information. One thing that worries me is I think taxes on gasoline, if used correctly, ought to be viewed as a user fee, which basically, you know, you use the roads, you buy the gasoline, you help support the roads. The problem in Georgia is that we have burdened the gasoline with not just the user fee aspect, meaning money going to transportation, but also going to other sources. We've already discussed in depth about the fourth penny, but we have other situations taking place in which various splosh and various things are being put onto gasoline but not being used for transportation. And I could really use some help from the Department of Transportation to let us know what additional percentage points are being placed on gasoline that are going to local transportation projects versus going to other sources. So we could start seeing whether or not we should be unburdening the gas tax for these other things, and so to make sure it goes to transportation. I just would like to see that information, to see how much money is involved.
Keith, can you get that for him?
Yeah. Right now, roughly what's charged on local fuel, on motor fuel tax not being spent on it's about $512 million. Roughly, that was the last time we had the number. On the bill I dropped last year, that was the number.
If we could get sort of that breakdown by county, that would help out. And so we can know exactly what we're talking about here. Because before we talk about a greater gas tax going to DOT, we might need to be starting looking at taking some of that off of the burden on gasoline down the road.
Thank you.
Thank you, Edward.
Hold on. We have Senator Lucas.
Commissioner, you probably remember that y'all offered up $180 million. We used to pay for some of DOT bonded indebtedness at the general fund.
Right.
And y'all offered that up when we got the Olympics with a promise that we would get it back to you, which you've never gotten.
Right.
So
Thank you for remembering that.
So if you add if you would add the penny that's in the general fund is $185 million, and then that $180 million we spent, you got a total of $365, which means that you would be able to bring down probably $1 billion out the highway trust fund. Everybody think it's going away, but we all play politics, and we all understand that if they close that, there will be a lot of states who will be raising sand and will be sending new senators and congressmen to Washington.
Thank you, Senator. That's a good point.
Thank you.
Excellent. Anything else, Mr. Chairman?
No, but I do want to say that we appreciate your years of leadership there, and we actually appreciate the fact that you're actually coming out and talking about solutions and being bold enough to step forward and say that, from your opinion, this is what we need to do. And I agree. The objective here is to come up with revenue. How we get there, how we get to that number is what we're going to have to try to wrestle with. But thank you so much for what all you've done. We appreciate you. Hold on. The Dean.
Sam, on as your presentation, and we're talking about the gas tax and then the sales tax as it relates to the gas tax. What ballpark, or what do you think, if hypothetically we were to go that direction, how would you couple that?
How would I what?
How would you couple that in terms of the amount to go to? We got the lowest gas tax.
I think Mark has a great idea. $1 billion. Let's come up with $1 billion.
Just calculate
That's what we need.
Based on the formula. Okay.
And Senator Lucas has got an idea. He's got $385 million for us right now. So come up with the other $600 million, either through the gas tax or through another T-splosh.
All right. Thank you. That's simple, isn't it?
Mr. Chairman, let me just conclude by saying one thing, and I don't mean to be redundant. Y'all have been hearing this for the last 4 hours since you've been in Columbus, but there are more good things going on in Columbus today than ever before. We have the leadership in place, not just a great mayor, but we got a great council, we got a great delegation headed by Calvin, and we got city leaders doing a wonderful job in Columbus, and I just can't tell you how happy all of us are to have you in Columbus, to see what we're doing and to hear what we're doing in Georgia's second largest city. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Did you have a question? Hold on one second, if you don't mind. Representative Evans.
I'll be brief.
I didn't mean to stir y'all up.
No. Thank you, Commissioner. I appreciate your courage.
Thank you, Bubba.
And I agree with you on our Commissioner. In particular, you and I share something in common with Thomas Howell.
Absolutely.
He's
the best.
He is the problem solver. And he answers issues for not only your urban areas, but for rural Georgia, like myself. But
he does things that I get credit for, but he's the one that does them.
You're making him blush back
We're
there.
going to lay his laurels on him, aren't we? But let me ask you, and I think the Commissioner has talked on this, the bond indebtedness that you face each year, has any...
That's part of that. You know, we have a $2 billion budget, but such a large percentage comes out of, you know, we got to pay debt.
Correct.
Unfortunately, you have to pay debt back.
I wish
y'all would take it off of us.
I agree.
They mastered that in one.
I agree.
We like grants ourselves.
Thank you.
But maybe that adds to Senator Lucas and Chairman Hamilton's pockets.
It does. Senator Lucas has got a great idea. And we thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Wilbur.
you. Courage.
Mary, could you step back up? We got a question for you, please, ma'am.
Yes.
Now that the T-SPLOS has passed, are you still investing what you were investing in previous years out of your budget
Oh, yes,
for
even
transportation?
more so because of the other lost. I would say that's fair. I mean, certainly, I would say more so. And we're also able to, you know, free up some money and leverage some other opportunities, too. So, yeah, the other lost and the T-SPLOS has helped us tremendously, and we're carrying even more of our load now that T-SPLOS has passed.
Thank you.
Yes. That concludes our planned remarks. And again, just want to thank you all. The only comment I would add to the great comments by Sam Welborn is we do hear from time to time the ability of the DOT to free up the use of their money. You're drawn from a shallow well here, but as I understand it, that comes from the gas tax is required to be spent on roads and bridges and things of that nature. And nowadays, there's a lot of other kinds of transportation. And so to make it as flexible as possible, again, for innovation, and not just rail certainly, but we all know we've got a lot of cycle enthusiasts here. Pedestrian transportation and access is more and more important. So again, the more flexible we can be, the more agile and more able to take these great opportunities that come our way. So thank you all again. I love the discussion. As I said earlier when we met, everyone's hungry for leadership, and so it's so refreshing to see you all debating and tackling these tough issues with real-world solutions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, we do appreciate your hospitality that you have shown us here today. Wait a minute, Dean?
Chairman, I saw, they may have stepped out, but I saw our Superintendent David Lewis was here earlier, and also our Tax Commissioner, Lula Huff, and I just wanted to, both of them were left doing Sam's remarks, but I did want to acknowledge that both of them were here.
Sure, thank you. At this time, we're not going to take a break, if that's all right with y'all. I know everybody's got to travel, so at this point, we're actually going to move into the open mic portion of our meeting. We do not have a sign-up sheet as of yet, but do you have one already, Tracy? Is it back there? Okay, I'm sorry. I should have known that you were on top of things. I tell you what, who would like to speak first? Come on up, Bob. When you get there, when you come up, I'm going to give y'all each 5 minutes. Please keep it to 5 minutes if you can. And we're going to, I want you to, of course, we all know Bob, but make sure that you tell us who you are and what group you're here with. If you are with the group or if you just here yourself, just let me know. All right, Bob.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Bob Dallas. From 2003 to 2011, I worked with many of you as Director of the Highway Safety Office. What you may not know is I have served for 20 years as a planning commissioner in DeKalb County and now in my home city of Dunwoody, where I chair that. And looking at development and the future growth of not only where I live, but our state, and the opportunity I had to travel the state as Highway Safety Director, it's come to my attention that I have no doubt in my mind that with the collective work of our governor, this committee and legislature, and the many mayors, that you all will find a solution towards reaching the funding needs of this state when it comes to transportation. And back in May, I referenced that because I think looking back over the many years, I have not seen what I call the golden age of working together in the transportation field as I have today. And that's a compliment to each of you here, as many of your cohorts who are throughout the state. But what I wanted to turn the attention to was not the success you're going to find in appropriately looking at new funding sources, but to look at the decision as to how to spend the money. We all know there are billions upon billions, even with the monies that you do find, of needs throughout the state. So we will always have that difficult question of what's the next project to get funded? What kind of project should be funded? And trust me, I know very well how difficult that decision is. I worked as a volunteer closely with the Metro Atlanta effort to pass the T-SPLOS. And from that, trust me, it was a learning experience for many of us. Correct, Mr. Williams? We learned a lot. A lot of what we learned, though, is in terms of defining well how we spend that money to the satisfaction of our citizens of this state. And to me, and I learned this from a planning commissioner perspective, it's value. Now, many people say that the value is simply fixed congestion. And in some instances, that may be true. But look here closely at Columbus, and you saw their T-SPLOS list. Madam Mayor, it was a broad list, and I think it probably is an extremely high value proposition that will benefit this city economically for years to come. So to that point of where that money should be spent, I would suggest to you, considering that in whatever legislation you come up with, that it says specifically, it's not just congestion, it's the value derived from the investment of that dollar. And I think when you do that, we will not have the bridges to nowhere that we often read about in other states, but we will have precise expenditures within our state for those things which will carry our state to the future. And that's really what my editorial that came out in May was about, and that is making part of the discussion that you have identifying the metrics and criteria by which those dollars will be spent, because they are dear and scarce. as was stated here today and as stated by every citizen. Nobody likes taxes, but if we know they're spent well, then we'll accept the decisions that you all make. And that's something I really did learn in that T-SPLOS debate. And I congratulate all of you for the time and service that you put here. Folk like me who really believe this is the most important thing for our state, simply say thank you. And I stand ready for any questions, should there be any, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. At this time, you don't have any, but thank you for coming. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
We are, I know with this list, some did not want to speak, some did want to speak. So I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm just going to say that whoever wants to speak next, come forward. Come on. There you go. Don't be shy. Tell us your name and who you're with, or if you just here as yourself.
I'm Bill Consoletti. I'm a forester, a registered forester, resident of Columbus, a member of the Society of American Foresters, the Georgia Forestry Association, and I worked in forest industry for over 30 years. What I'm here to ask is that the committee remember local governments in rural areas for the rural roads and bridges as you study the transportation needs of the state. From our standpoint in forestry, we need to be able to move our product from its source to its facilities, and that means our trees need to move from the woods to the mills. And while I'm here, in case nobody gets up for agriculture, of course, they need to move their product from field to processing facilities. So please remember the rural counties, a lot of them are strapped for funds, and sometimes they just have Band-Aid solutions to fix the roads, and they need their county roads up. Thank you.
No, we thank you. I think that is often left out and unheard of. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not smart enough for that. That makes me feel good. At least it's not working. It's not me. Hold on. There we go. All right, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Co-Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Mark Woodall. I'm chairman of the executive committee of the Sierra Club here in Georgia. And you may know the Sierra Club is one of the oldest and largest environmental organizations in the United States. So on behalf of our 10,000 members and 2.5 members nationwide, I thought I'd have a quote for the day that has to do with national security, since we got Fort Benning just down the road here. And that's from retired Admiral Dennis Blair, former commander of the Pacific Fleet, former director of national intelligence. He said, excessive dependence on oil for transportation is inconsistent with national security. So why is that? The latest numbers I could find, the United States did over $427 billion overseas in 2013. There is some good news thanks to improved gas mileage and the fact that we have increased domestic production. The number of millions of barrels imported per day in 2005 was 20.8 million, and that's dropped. The latest numbers for 2012 are down to 18.64 million. So that's a little bit better, but in 2013, our oil came from some places that are not very friendly. From the Russians, 5% of imports. From Venezuela, 9%. And from Saudi Arabia, which has got sort of a shaky royal family arrangement these days, it was at 13%. Petroleum consumption in Georgia in 2012 was over 176 million barrels. I've seen various numbers for that. It appears that our Georgia citizens sent over $10 billion out of state to pay for all that gasoline. So best I could find, the excise tax was last moved up in 1971, which 7.5 cents back then would be a big percentage of what it would take to pay for your gas. So I think that's one thing y'all might want to consider, is converting the excise tax to percentage that would move with inflation or deflation or whatever you might have. But as you know, Georgia spends very little for mass transit, so I guess I would mainly urge y'all to look at whatever you can to try and increase, decrease our dependence on imported oil. Whatever y'all can do to increase mass transit in Georgia will send a message to ISIS and Al-Qaeda and those folks that we're serious about getting off that foreign oil. So appreciate y'all coming together, and I look forward to what y'all do. I guess I'm going to the back.
Wait, hold on one second. Let me ask you a question, if you don't mind. As we move toward that, and I think everybody is in agreement, we need to use less foreign oil. What do you see if we were to look at some type of fee that would possibly be paid by these electric or alternative fuel vehicles? In other words, they're still riding on the roadways, they're still wear and tear. And to be honest with you, and companies have told me they want to move toward natural gas, but they also still want to pay their fair share for riding on there. What do you see possibly would be a fair fee for that?
Well, you know, getting more electric vehicles in Georgia, that's the only thing the Sierra Club and Georgia Power actually agree on. So you've got a rare agreement there. I think we need to take a look at that, but I mean, the percentage of vehicles out there that are electric are just so tiny.
Well, I agree now, but as you talk about it, as we go on into the future, we're not looking, in my opinion, 2 to 3. We're looking at a 20, 30-year plan, and as we move out that far, that number is going to increase exponentially. So, I mean, I want us to try to look at that and address it now. You can get back to me. I mean, just think about it and let me know something. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on it.
We're looking at that. You know, usually we go with what those left-wingers in Oregon want to do, but, you know, this business...
Well, they've got 3 different ways, you know. They go either vehicle miles traveled or just in Oregon, or they go in one that's wherever because it doesn't have a GPS or a one-time fee. So they've got, they go 3 different ways in Oregon right
Well, I
now.
was going to say, we're a little wary of that vehicle miles traveled. I don't think y'all really want to be the mileage police, so that would probably be our least preferred.
No, I agree. But thank you so much.
Thank you for your time.
Appreciate it. All right. We got anybody else? All right. Come on forward. Don't be bashful.
Thank you. My name is Ed Chevy. I live here in Columbus, and I don't represent anybody but myself as a private citizen.
Good. That's what we want to hear.
Okay. First of all, I appreciate y'all coming down to visit us. It's really great. I want you to, if you could, to bear an open mind to the alternative transportation plans that they have up. All right. I'm a cyclist. I cycle by recreation. Also, I use it for transportation. That doesn't mean I don't own a car, because I have a 3-car family and a motorcycle. But usually I use my car to transport my bike to all these bike rides, okay? As a matter of fact, I signed up to do the 6 Gap ride in Dahlonega, okay? Now, this is a prime example of cycling at its best. They have capped the number of riders for this ride up to 2,000 people, and they have exceeded this almost every single year that they have done it, right? Another case in point, Savannah. You have the Savannah Bridge Ride. That's a very popular ride. We have people coming all over the states to ride it. I have done this myself. Great ride, great city, and I dropped a lot of money there. So alternative transportation, you really need to consider the cyclist. And if Mr. Wellborn gets his way and we raise the price on gas, you're going to see more cyclists on the road. So I'm all in favor of that. The more cyclists on the road, the safer it is for me. Thank you.
No, thank you so much. We appreciate you taking time to come down here and voice your opinion. Next, don't be bashful or we'll shut it down. As our pastor says, better speak now, forever hold your peace. Thank you.
Good morning, evening, whatever time of day it is. My name is Nadine Moore, and I'm just a private citizen, but I do talk to a lot of people. This is one of my transportation books, and I've been following transportation in this book since 1990. So anything you tell me, if it's not here, I go and research it. And this is how I keep up with whether you're telling the truth or whether you're posturing politically.
I like it.
I am a Democrat, and I have not met a Republican that did not like a tax. However, I am in agreement with some taxes. I do believe that if there is some type of oversight, and I think you have one, that will make sure that this T-SPLOS, discretionary monies, is spent absolutely correctly, and it benefits the masses of the citizens. That's the discretionary. I believe you can get another T-SPLOS, and I believe you can use Columbus as your model to sell the T-SPLOS all over the state of Georgia. Now, it took a lot of talking for me to even support it, because in the past, my city has not done the things that they said that they were going to do with sales taxes, that I have gone out and been the Monday morning Democrat howling for it. As a matter of fact, my code name is Nadine the Howling Democrat. Every sales tax that they've ever asked for, except for one, I supported. And it was because there were things that they had promised in previous sales taxes to include this building. This building is here because of a lawsuit brought by the Educational Park Commission for the 1999 SPLOS. This building would not be here were it not for that lawsuit. And Senator McCoon was a part of that lawsuit, and that probably is what launched his career to the Georgia State Senate.
Well, could y'all take, no, I'm just playing.
But I want you to make, I believe that you got a $1 billion budget you need and for the transportation. More people use roads than anything else. Use Columbus as a model. We have alternative transportation already in place. We have citizens who walk. If you go in areas in South Columbus, in Representative Smiley's district, you will see beaten paths of people just walking. Walking is our mode of transportation in most of the city, this part of this city. This is not to say that Columbus does not have sidewalks. We do have sidewalks, but we need sidewalks where they are needed. And then we also have this third lane in the road, which is a sidewalk right next to a road. If you could make sure that that discretionary money improve the sidewalk system, as well as put sidewalks where they are needed, and use Columbus as a model, I believe that you would get your T-SPLOSs passed all over the state to enhance your highway budget and make sure that the money that goes into that highway fund is spent on highway. Now, don't raise the sales tax on cigarettes no more. Now, I have stopped smoking, but I have friends who are still smoking, and they have to ask me, will you get me a pack of cigarettes? And I go in, they $6. I stopped when they turned $5.85. But just use Columbus as your model for your T-SPLOS with the discretionary money. Now, these projects, in my mind, I know it's going to happen. When they start Buena Vista Road, it's going to be towards the end of that project when it ends, and they're going to run out of money. And we're going to have to renew the T-SPLOS, which I don't have a problem with if you just fix the sidewalks where they are really sidewalks. And I'll send you pictures. I took the time right now and wrote down every last one of the names. And I'm going to send you examples of what I'm talking about.
Please do.
Use us and get another the T-SPLOS passed all over the city. That way everybody can be a part of it. But don't raise the gasoline tax, because you're going to hurt the school system with the buses. You're going to hurt your farming communities that, rely on it. But just don't raise the gas tax. Just do what you can to get T-SPLOS passed all over the state.
We want to thank you absolutely for coming, and we do appreciate your input. And if you've got our names, you can absolutely get our emails, and we would appreciate that information that you might have. Okay, anybody else? All right. With that being said, again, we do very much appreciate the hospitality that you've showed us here today. It has been a great experience. Members, thank you all for coming and taking time out. Our next meeting will absolutely be, no offense to Columbus, but in God's country, down in my district in Tifton, Georgia, and Senator Tyler's district. So y'all get to come on. Careful, you ain't recognized. You're not recognized. No, and Chairman Hamilton, we will, I think we've got that scheduled to start that day at 11:30. Is that correct, Andre, or 11? 11 o'clock. So that'll give everybody time. I know it's the day after the holiday, so it'll give you time if you want to come down that morning. So with that being said, Chairman Gooch, you got anything?
Go home.
We're adjourned. Thank y'all.